President Biden is proposing an aggressive spending program to support the economy as the nation continues to deal with the coronavirus pandemic, saying failure to do so could cause permanent damage. Listen here.
There is an overwhelming consensus among the major economists at home and in the world that the way to avoid a deeper recession moving in the direction of losing our competitive capacity is to spend money now. From across the board, every major institution has said, if we don't invest now, we're going to lose so much altitude in terms of our employment base and our economic growth.
Let's bring in Fox News contributor Karl Rove, former White House Deputy Chief of Staff to President George W. Bush, and the man with the board.
Yes.
A different board,
Morning,
not the
Karl.
Bill board, the Karl board. Hey, Karl.
So you've laid out the $1.9 trillion. How does it look to you? Go.
Well, first, let's put it in context. This is really important. Since March of last year through December, we have, as a country, appropriated at the federal level $3.6 trillion to spend on COVID relief. The Biden administration's proposal is to add 1.9, so a total of $5.5 trillion that we would have appropriated in less than 12 months. By comparison, the entire federal budget, paying for defense, for the national parks, for Medicare, Medicaid, you name it, in FY19 was $4.4 trillion, less than we're proposed to be spending on COVID relief in less than a year. Now, what about the new bill? What's in the new bill?
Yeah,
Well, there's $380 billion for what's called the top-off. We've given people a $600 check. You can get it if you're up to $300,000 in income, and now we're going to give you $1,400 more. Now, what we know about this is that last year when we gave people big checks, over 85% of them said they used that money to pay down a debt or put in their savings account, not to spend stimulating the economy. But now we're going to give people up to $300,000. You know, this is not, look, you've suffered, you've lost your job. If you've lost your job, you've got unemployment insurance payments. But this is just give everybody up to $300,000 with a lot of kids a check. $350,000 to state and local governments. We gave them money last year. What happened? They didn't spend it. They kept... They used the federal money instead of using state and local money. So we're going to give them out, and we're going to sort of dial this towards the urban centers. Not that they're Democratic, and that may not be the real reason to do it, but we're going to give money to urban transit systems. So all those people in the country are going to be paying for the metro systems and the subway systems.
But we got $50 billion. So they're not using the subway.
Yeah, exactly. We got $50 billion for public health jobs program. We're going to start this program about the time that we get it, by late summer. I was listening to Dr. Fauci. This thing ain't going to be started and up and going by the end of the summer, when we hopefully will have everybody vaccinated. We're going to set up a brand new long-term program called the Public Health Jobs Program. We got $25 billion for rent assistance. In December, we passed $25 billion in rent assistance, and it's barely been touched. So let's go ahead and just appropriate another $25 billion, even if we haven't spent what we had before. And then we've got, I don't know what the price tag on this is, but they're calling for we've increased food stamps 15% in value, and they want to do that for June to September because we've already done it up till June. So let's go ahead now and do it June to September as well. And then we got, as critical elements here, we want to create jobs. So let's get a $15 minimum wage, which the Congressional Budget Office says their median estimate is it would cost roughly 1.6 million jobs and could cost as many as 3 million jobs. How's that getting us back on the economy? And then when all these restaurants are shutting down and people who work in restaurants are losing their jobs, let's end the tipped wage. That's the lower wage that you can pay people who get tips. So let's get rid of the tipped wage, which is going to hurt restaurants even more and the people who work in them. So we got a bunch of goofy ideas here. What is it designed to do? Expand the power of the government, spend more money, run up the deficit, make Washington more prominent in our lives, and avoid doing the thing that we really need to focus on, which is getting everybody inoculated and being able to open up our economy. The government is only a part of America. The economy is bigger than the government, and that's what we need to do, is grow the economy, not grow government.
Karl, I do want to know what you had for breakfast, so please text that to me later so I can have it in the morning. But I also
I had nothing.
You didn't mention
yet.
something. There's money in this bill for schools. school districts, right, for air purifiers and things. But now you have teachers' unions that are pushing back saying, even with this new equipment, even with these safety measures, they don't want to get back in school.
Yeah, look, there are some good things in the bill. There's money to help on the inoculation, the vaccination program. There's money to help schools reopen. Don't get me wrong, there's some good stuff in here. There's money for the small business program, the PPP. There's also money for PPE, personal protective equipment, to make certain that we've got sufficient supplies of masks and protective gear. But the bulk of this has little to do with, in my opinion, meeting the emergency, or is well designed. This idea that we're going to give people $2,000 checks when we already have strong evidence that what they're doing with them is they're paying down debt or putting it in their savings account. I had a Wall Street guy the other day talk to me, and he said, you know what a lot of people are doing with it? He said they're throwing it into the market. They've got $2,000. They're throwing it into the market and buying crazy stocks, and that's one of the reasons that the stock market is high. Now, I don't know how big that effect is, but I think there's probably some truth to that. If more than 85% of the people are using that money to pay down debt or to save rather than to meet current expenses, it means we're giving money to a lot of people who don't deserve it, and that all goes on the debt.
I just have one question. If that laundry list of spending is to be considered, do you think Democrats in the Senate would pass that with a mere 51 votes, which means Kamala Harris would be involved in all likelihood?
Over the weekend, the head of the national, the president's council, the president's National Economic Council, visited with bipartisan members, Republicans and Democrats, who are sort of this group that's tried to find a reasonable way forward. And he got a lot of pushback from Democrats and Republicans in the center of the political spectrum, saying this is way too much money. We don't understand what you're trying to do, and you can't explain what you are trying to do. So my sense is there's a growing consensus. Trim this thing back. Focus on things that are actually needed. And if we do need to appropriate more money for rent assistance later on, or we do need to continue to keep food stamps high, look, let's be honest. One of the reasons that they want to increase the value of food stamps by 15% is they want more people to be dependent upon food stamps, and they want that program to grow larger and the government to have a bigger sway in our economy. That's the liberal view. Government ought to be in there doing these things rather than allowing local governments or people to do it.
Tips in cash. That's what I say.
Yep.
Thank you, Karl. Nice to see you. Well done.